Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. First things first, hopefully you guys are all having a wonderful Christmas and holiday time. Pretty sure this video is gonna be going up on Christmas Eve. And today, my friends, we are looking at the absolute best of the best when it comes to the current Warzone meta. Obviously, we're all sort of hunting down what is the true meta in game right now. And when it comes down to it, between my playtime, between watching a lot of other streamers and sort of figuring out what everyone is sort of deciding is the best go-to weapons, I feel like we have a pretty good meta sort of laid out before us. So today we are going over the top 5 most overpowered loadouts to be using right now in Warzone. As we go through them all, if you enjoy the video at any points, or if you find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel, or if you have not already subscribed, right around 57% of viewers watching are not subscribed yet, and we are getting super close to 800k. We're less than 5,000 subs away at this point. And of course, by subscribing, you can guarantee you are always up to date with everything going on in the world of Call of Duty, between news, updates, loadouts, tips. It's all right here each and every single day. So this first loadout is one that I'm sure if you've paid any attention to, you know, previous meta videos, or you've watched some of those top streamers play Warzone right now, this is one that you're probably very familiar with. It's a very popular one at the moment. It's comprised of the Bren and then also the MP40. Absolute beast of a setup. You got the long range covered and even the medium range covered with the Bren. You've got the close range definitely covered with the MP5. You cannot go wrong with this. Super low recoil, great damage between both of them. Very easy, very straightforward to use. Before we break down the attachments, real quick, I'll go over the perks and equipment. This is the same on all 5 of the loadouts today. We're rocking EOD, Overkill, and Amped, pretty much the go-to always. I use the frag just because of how much it got buffed with the whole Pacific update. You could also use knives, Semtexes, whatever you want to, honestly, when it comes down to it. I just prefer the frags at the moment. Then I do still run stuns. They're just super useful in, you know, any kind of engagement where you can get this off. It really hinders the enemy, so why not use it? Now, when it comes to the Bren and the MP40, the Bren setup is sort of the basic one that we've covered a handful of times already at this point, but as of right now, without receiving any nerfs or alterations to how it works and how efficient it is in game, it's still an absolute beast of a setup. So we're starting off first with the Mercury Silencer. We obviously stay off the minimap and we get some better control out of that. You might say, well, we lose some damage range. That is where the Royal Barrel comes into place. Damage does not diminish over range. There's no drop off, and that makes this probably the single best barrel in the entire game when it comes down to it. Not only are you getting better velocity and better control, which is huge on a ranged weapon, with no damage drop off, it makes the weapon so much better. So that's a huge part of this setup. I rock the 2.5 times custom scope. This is sort of my go-to right now. It's got good magnification, but also helps reduce your recoil some. And I like the way it looks as well. So win-win all around there. Go for the BH stock, better control, better aiming stability there. Hand stop or carver foregrip, either or is going to work just fine here. Both are going to help with that control. I go for these Sakura 40 round mags here. Better control, better fire rate, better ADS. While you do lose some damage and some velocity, doesn't matter too much because of that barrel. And then also this just makes it so much easier to use, and you're so much more accurate with this. You could definitely run the 50 BMG rounds as well if you wanted to. It's going to have a little bit more kick, but it is going to hit pretty hard and be really good over range as well if you're able to land your shots. A little bit harder to use, but sort of higher risk, higher reward in this case. But 40 is what most people are rocking, and it works just fine. Also going for length in here for the better velocity, polymer for the better control, tight grip for the better control, and this is actually one of the best perks in the entire game for reducing that. Then finally, fully loaded as always. Then moving to the MP40, this is the setup that I featured most recently when we broke down and talked about this. It is ultra aggressive, built specifically for close range. It is so good up close. It's going to fry everyone and melt everyone. Sort of a pun here, you'll see why, but of course, recoil booster, better fire rate makes it a little bit more aggressive. First barrel for the better control really is what we're focusing on there. I go for the ISO 1M iron sights, better ADS, and just looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier to spot enemies up close. Remove stock or folding stock, either of these work just fine. Getting better sprint to fire, better movement speed with both of those, so it sort of just comes down to whatever you prefer most. For the underbarrel, you're either looking at the skeletal or the pistol grip. Both of these are going to help out with a little bit of speed. Skeletal in terms of ADS, pistol grip in terms of sprint to fire, so whichever you desire more there. I go for the Granco 45 round mags, better control, better fire rate, better movement speed as well. Just makes it again way easier to land shots, and you're gonna fry people with this, even if it does hurt the damage a little bit. Incendiary or hollow points is sort of the go-to here. You could use subsonic if you wanted to stay off the map, but we actually have something else to sort of deal with that in a bit. Incendiary though, True Game Data has gone in and talked about this. These are incredibly beneficial ammunition mods to use for close range fights, just because the damage dealt over time and how enemies can't heal. So that's pretty solid. Hollow point also works well though, because you do get that increased limb damage, so either or works there. Going for polymer yet again for that increased recoil control. I am currently testing out unmarked. It says position concealment, so in theory this would act like a suppressor or like subsonic would. Still not 100% sure how much this is hiding me on the map, but it seems like it's worked well for me so far, so I'm sticking with it. Then finally I go for quick for that better mobility. Now moving on, setup number 2 features the Type 100 and the Cooper carbine, two absolute powerhouses. I mean, the Type 100 just deletes players up close. It has one of the best TTKs when it comes to the SMGs, and the Cooper carbine, if you don't know by now, is probably the most versatile weapon in the game. Yeah, they nerfed the close range build of it a bit. They've also sort of nerfed the long range over time, but it's still an absolute beam really at any range. And this setup in particular, while it is obviously the main primary and ranged weapon for this setup, absolutely could be used if you have it out in some of those close and medium range areas too. So very versatile, and the Type 100 is just one of those weapons that absolutely is incredibly powerful. So here we're going for the Mercury silencer yet again. I go for the 374mm barrel, better control, better flinch resistance there. Nothing too crazy. The barrels here are not all super ideal. That's sort of the best one to go for in my opinion. Slate reflector, just the basic red dot here. Skeletal stock, better sprint to fire, better movement. Skeletal underbarrel for that better ADS. You could also go for the pistol grip as well here if you wanted to, either or. I go for the 8mm 48 round drums, better damage, better velocity, better range. There's just not really great mag options here. You get the reload quickness on the fast mags, but it's only 30 round, which really is not ideal. 36 also isn't that much better, so 48 I feel like is the best case scenario there. Incendiary or hollow point yet again in this case, doesn't really matter. We don't need subsonic obviously because we got Mercury up there. Polymer once more, vital for that increased torso damage. Also though, gung ho and acrobatic could both be solid choices too if you wanted to try those out. And then once again we're going with quick. Now for the Cooper carbine, this is what I've been using a lot recently, really trying to get a feel for this, and this is a no recoil setup when it comes down to it. It is an absolute laser beam. It is so easy to use, so easy to track enemies. It's going to fry them at the same time. Mercury silencer for all the same reasons as before. The Cooper custom barrel, better fire rate, better accuracy, better control over range. You love to see it. 2.5 times optic. You can go for pretty much any of the optics we've covered recently. The 3.5 times, the Slate 2.5, whatever your heart desires there. Going for the padded stock, better recoil during sustained fire. That's a super ideal pro to have. Carver foregrip for the better control, obviously. Even though this is a long-range build, I am still rocking the 9mm 60-round drums. At first, I was a little bit iffy on this, but then I've seen a lot of the top players, TP, some other top guys in the scene right now, they're using this and it's working well. I've tried it. It works very well. I just prefer it over the 45 despite these being damage increasing. I'm just landing more shots with the 60. It feels better. It's easier to trace players, to track players, to down players. So that's what I'm rolling with there. Lengthened, obviously, for the better velocity. Polymer for the better control. Tight grip, which makes this thing an absolute beam. Like I said, no recoil, it seems like. Then also fully loaded. Loadout number 3 is featuring the bar and the Thompson. Both of these are heavy hitters when it comes down to it. I mean, the Thompson, very easy to use. No recoil, great for some of those close and medium range fights. The bar is the powerhouse of the rifles. They did nerf the control on it a bit, but it is still an absolute beast when it comes down to it. I'm really enjoying it. Higher risk, higher reward, and sort of a higher skill gap with this weapon because of that slower fire rate. But hey, it gets the job done if you know what you're doing. We're starting off with the Mercury silencer yet again. Going for the 27-inch barrel, better control, better damage range is super ideal here to get that potential 4-shot kill. Slate 2.5 times custom once more. Chariot stock, better control, better aiming stability. Carver foregrip yet again, polymer and lengthen yet again. I'm specifically using the 50 BMG 40 round mags because they did not mention any reduction to the recoil control here, whereas on the 30 round, it's going to do even less control. So it's going to be harder to stay on target with these versus the 40 according to the patch notes. So those obviously increase the velocity, the range, and the damage. That's ideal, and it's going to be a bit easier to use. Hard scope, which is basically like tight grip, but it's just sustained ADS control, then also fully loaded once more. Then looking at the Thompson, pretty similar setup to what we got going on over on the Type 100. Mercury silencer yet again. Cooling barrel for that better control. Again, the barrels here really aren't all that great in my opinion. Slate reflector, basic red dot, adjustable stock, which is basically like the skeletal for that better mobility. Skeletal underbarrel for the better ADS. I am sticking with the 9mm 50 for the better control, better fire rate, better movement speed. It seems like these damage decreasing, velocity increasing rounds just make guns way easier to use, and despite the lower damage and the lower velocity, you're still landing shots more frequently, so the TTK doesn't really feel all that different. So I'm running with those. They do fly and fry. Hollow point or incendiary, again, whatever your heart desires. If you want to be a little bit more toxic with the fire rounds, they could be really, really beneficial in certain fights. Hollow point, though, also works very well. Polymer once more. I'm going for Frenzy in this case. The perks really aren't all that great, just health regen after kills, sort of like Quick Fix in a way. Then once again, going for Quick. Moving on, loadout number 4 is exclusively Black Ops Cold War weapons here because they are still very, very good. Yeah, obviously the main focus is on Vanguard, but you can't deny that the Cold War AK and then also the Lapa are both slappas when it comes down to it. Shout out Jay for the rhyme. I mean, these haven't really been changed. They nerfed the recoil a bit on the AK, but the TTK is still insane. And the Lapa, I would say, has the best TTK out of all the SMGs in the game right now. The thing absolutely fries. Cold War AK setup here, no different from what we've been running for a while now. Cruise Suppressor, Spetsnaz RPK barrel for the best velocity and control, Spetsnaz grip for better control, 45 round mag in the 3x optic because that's usually the cleanest when it comes down to it. And for the Lapa, very basic SMG setup here, minus the fact that you have to run a red dot because the iron sights are just atrocious. Agency and rifled for the best damage and best TTK possible. Tiger Team for the better mobility, Microflex LED unfortunately, and then also the 40 round once more. And then finally, we got 2 more Cold War weapons, the MG82 and the MAC-10. The MAC-10 does not have the best TTK in the game when it comes down to it, but it has insane mobility, also has no recoil, a great fire rate, so despite not killing the quickest, it's still going to be very, very efficient in the current meta just because of how easy it is to use and how comfortable we all are with it. Starting with this one first, very basic setup, Agency and Task Force as always, Tiger Team and Bruiser for the insane mobility, and also the 53 round drum. If you wanted to, you could always drop Bruiser, run the Serpent Wrap here for a better ADS, or even run no stock for some better mobility. Wouldn't really recommend Combat or Raider anymore because of the nerfs that those got with the Pacific update, but this setup works just fine. It will melt players. Then the MG82, again, a higher risk, higher reward weapon, but that's what makes it very powerful in this case. It has an insane TTK over range. If you're landing shots, the players are not going to stand a chance. Very basic setup here yet again, Agency and Task Force, best control, best velocity, best range. Field Agent you definitely need here, 3x optic, and then I go for the fast mag. You could sort of mess around with the 5th and final attachment just like on the MAC-10. If you wanted some better mobility, I'm not sure why you'd waste that on an LMG. Tiger Team would be a viable choice. You could go for fast mag. You could go for the 125 round mag if you wanted to just reload less. You could even go for the airborne elastic wrap and get a better ADS. Sort of comes down to what you value the most there, but this setup works great. It still is an absolute beast here in Season 1 on the Pacific. But all that being said, those are the top 5 most overpowered loadouts to be using in Warzone right now, and that is going to wrap things up for today. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, this is the best place to be for everything going on in Call of Duty. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.